we are getting ready to start the first panel of the day, Anime Parenting 101.
And this is our beautiful host, Sarah. And I'm the other one, Dawn. So thank you for coming, and hopefully everything went smooth with getting your wristbands, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the day after this. So this is called Bridging the Gap. It's Anime Parenting 101. And the reason we did this is because many new generations, such as my daughter or younger generations, are getting into anime, and some parents either weren't into anime or they've been kind of out of it for a while because of work and life. So we're hoping to kind of bring things back up to speed.
Jake, can we go ahead and get the next slide? So the first thing we're going to talk about is knowing the difference between anime and cartoon. And it might seem silly, but there are a lot of cultural differences and a lot of content differences between the two. Even though they can both be, like, there are cartoons for adults and cartoons for kids, and there's anime for adults and anime for kids. But there is still a difference between what they are, and so we want to let you know what you're looking at.
Yes, so as she was saying, not all cartoons or anime are created equal. There are multiple levels, from little kids to teens to older adults, much like women's pants. Most of them don't have pockets. So real quick, just a quick rundown, anime was originated in Japan. Now, if you break down the term anime, it does mean cartoon. However, in Japan, it is all over their culture, and we're going to get to that in just a bit. It's not just a TV show or a book, where in the Western culture, mostly the United States or America, cartoons tend to be on television, or movies, which still tend to air on television, and then they do have the occasional comic book.
And we'll go ahead and go to the next slide, where we're going to talk about Western animation or cartoons.
So the first thing is cartoons tend to be mostly two-dimension. There does have a few that are three-dimension, but they tend to have a certain style to them. They tend to be very simple. So with cartoons, you have a beginning, a problem, something they take care of, and then at the end of the show, they normally address it, answer all your questions, take care of the problem. Rare occasions, you'll have a cartoon that'll go 2 episodes, okay? And then also, they tend to have very simple features. So, not gonna lie, I'm 80s born and 90s bred, so we've got Scooby-Doo and Shaggy up here, yay! But with going with simple features, if you look at Shaggy, Velma, and Scooby, they are very clear cut out. You can see that, but the background's pretty bland, except for the trapdoor. How Shaggy doesn't see this is really, really fascinating. But that's because they want to let the audience know something's going to happen to that door. So cartoons really make things simpler for people to catch.
And then we're going to look at the next slide, where we're going to see Japanese animation, which is known to us as anime, and talk about how it's a little bit different and some of the things that are important as a part of anime.
So as we said, in Japan, anime culture is everywhere. Doesn't matter if it's a TV show or not. They use it for advertising. They use it for social media. They use it on their buses. They use it in manga form. So anime is a little bit more broader. Where cartoons, it's pretty much a TV show, maybe a comic book. Anime, you've got advertisement, you have TV shows, you have movies, you have manga, which is a much bigger comic. And then you also have figures, games, all sorts of stuff. That's why we have a picture of a store. So the store is just a normal convenience store, like Walmart or something that you would just see in America. But there's anime posters everywhere. It's because they use it for their advertising. Anime tends to be more detailed, both in the character and in the background. In the middle picture, we have Howl's Moving Castle, and this is to help demonstrate how detailed it is and why that food looks so yummy. Because No one can make food look yummy like anime. But also the background of it is very detailed. You can see the clutter. It makes you go, man, how long has it been since you cleaned your house? And then also, anime doesn't necessarily follow the cartoon form, where it has a beginning, a problem, and a clear end. Anime has a problem, and getting to the problem, and we're going to be dealing with the problem. Oh, there was a sidetracked issue with the problem. Oh, I think we finished the problem 5, 10, maybe 15 episodes later. Depends. And they don't always answer everything. Cartoons will tend to answer what the big problem was, tie up loose ends. Anime will purposely not answer everything because they want you, the audience, to come up with your own ideas and conclusions. Yay for fandom.
So, just talking a little bit more about that difference between anime and cartoon there, the biggest place it means something to me is actually in the storyline, which Don hit on a little bit because, like, cartoons are kind of like short stories. You're going to read it all in one go and have all your questions answered and the problem solved and everything done. Whereas anime really, part of why I think it's so attractive to kids is because it does have that full overarching plot line. So there are lots of things happening and it's not just simple, go in, watch it, it's done with. It's how are these characters becoming and being created and what their personalities are and how they act and what they do. And so we're going to look at next, if you'll go ahead and hit the next slide, Jake, we're going to look at some of the visual things that also we've kind of hit on, but we really want to talk about. We're going to start with the world and background detail.
So again, Scooby fan, for those that just came in, we've got, you want to go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so we have Scooby here on the right with Shaggy, and they're enjoying some wonderful pancakes, because who doesn't like pancakes in the morning? Those pancakes actually look pretty good. But if you notice, again, Scooby and Shaggy are very clean cut. Their images, their style line, it's very obvious that this is where they are. And the food that they're eating, because it's what they're interacting with, is also very clean cut and presentable. Even with the messy syrup, that messy syrup isn't going to go everywhere. Like they had to make you think it was. So that's one of the examples, but if you look at the background, it's very bland. You can see there's a cupboard, there might be a door, but actually there's just a lot of pattern because cartoons will make the background very bland. They don't want you to pay attention to the background, they want you to pay attention to the characters and what they're doing, which is understandable. So cartoons will make things bland or just throw patterns up to fill things in. Where anime on the other side, that's Food Wars if anyone wants to know, will make everything detailed. Like, I'm pretty sure if it wasn't so whitewashed, you could actually read the menu order behind the gentleman up there. But the ceiling's detailed. You know it's wood. You know it's rotted wood. It might actually need some maintenance here in a few days. And also, the characters are very detailed, along with the food. They're so detailed that the expression of the one gentleman makes me wonder, what did this guy make and how good is it?
And point of view also comes in a little bit. A lot of times in cartoons, you do see, even though this is a very funny and important in some ways, because it's a part of who Scooby and Shaggy are, you see them and it's like this flat, straight on view. Whereas this other one, like the expression and just the 3D environment that's created is so much more.
Yeah, to feed off of what she was saying, cartoons also have a lot of humor in it. Like that is the main purpose. It's to be funny, it's to be entertaining. Where anime, it could be funny, it could be entertaining, it could be drama, it could be scary, it could be, let's think about morals. It could be anything. So it's always more detailed in its expression.
Jake, we're going to go ahead and go to the next slide. And here we're going to talk about that same form of detail, but in terms of looking at the characters. And just really seeing the differences in the different art styles, even though there are many both in cartoons and in anime, there are still like markable differences that help you know the difference.
So again, cartoons tend to be about 2D, sometimes 3D, clean cut, but they also tend to be proportionate and themed. So we've got Simpsons up here, they're themed. You see yellow and big white eyes, it's a Simpson world. You've got Family Guy. So Stewie, I'm gonna pick on him for just a second. He's probably the most disproportional character up there right now because his head kind of looks like a football. But it still manages to fit and work with his body. And the characters even acknowledge the fact that he has a football head. All right? I threw Arthur down there because that was one of the most detailed cartoon stuff I could find. Even then, it's still simple in its design. Well, this is a chibi style, and we'll go into chibi terminology in a bit. But what it means is it has a big head, big eyes, cute little mouth, cute little hands. It looks adorable. It also makes a lot of parents think it's for children. However, just because something is drawn in chibi does not always mean it's for children. There are some styles that are in this form that are for adult or older teens only. The other character is Gunther from Seven Deadly Sins. So anime also does not mind making you question a character's gender. And they will purposely do what's called gender bending, where they will make a male character look so detailed and so pretty that you think it's a female, or vice versa. Because anime doesn't mind taking the social rules and bending it, because to them, it's a fantasy world, let's bend rules.
And so, as we're moving from the differences and the styles that are a part of anime into ratings, I will say that knowing that the styles can look one way and completely be different, or may have something that might give you moral qualms, let's say. Like, those are things to be aware of that might be a part of something rated differently than what you would think. So there might be something that's rated for teens, but that has those aspects to it. And so as a parent, when you're looking at ratings, just know that that gives you a very generalized viewpoint of what you're looking at and what your kids are going to be looking at. And sometimes really the only thing you can do is watch it for yourself and decide whether it fits for your family and your values and your kids.
We led right into this. But be honest, American ratings are not all created equal either. You have TV ratings, movie ratings, you have Canadian ratings, all sorts of ratings. So what we're going to try to do is help make it as mainstream generalized as possible so that we can help you guys figure out what this content is as quickly as possible. So, for example, up there, this is more of a cartoon rating and it's TV, and it'll specifically say TV. What's your number right there? It's not a DVD or something else. But the Y7 represents your suggested age range. Now, again, it is always left up to the parent or the adult to be the final deciding factor. If you, like she said, feel your kid is mature enough to handle an age 7 and they're only 4, that is your decision, okay? But it also gives you a quick little explanation as to why they think it's age 7 rating, which is that FV, and that's for fantasy violence.
So when we talk about fantasy violence, a lot of people think like video game violence and what you would see in that. But as we were looking at and talking about this, it came to me that, you know, technically Wile E. the Coyote is fantasy violence. So you could have something rated a Y7 that's for fantasy violence, and you would see Wile E. Coyote whacking someone over the head with a giant mallet. But that same like fantasy violence rating could also be for use of guns or swords or fighting. And so just because it tells you what it is, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to come out in the way you expect it.
Yep, she's right. So again, just showing you the different ratings. Y is for young ages. It's suitable for all ages. It's not going to be extremely explicit in any way. Age 7 means it's going to have more to it. Might show someone getting hurt, might show a not friendly situation kind of thing, but you're not going to see someone die. Let's see, PG is going to be similar to that Y7, because sometimes they like to use Y7 or PG or PG-13. PG-13 and TV-14 are about the same. It's going to be more explicit. It's going to have more detail, might show more blood, might show more aggression. And then rated M is for mature audiences only. That is your most explicit stuff. It's going to show everything.
Or at least it has the possibility to show any parts of those everythings.
And so again, to give the brief description, you've got V for violence, S for sexual situations, L for language, D for suggestive dialogue, and then FV for fantasy violence.
Jake, let's go ahead and go to the next slide.
So Japan actually has a similar rating, but they make things a lot simpler, to be honest. They make it mainstream. They have one rating system for almost everything. And this is an example of their rating system. They have group A, B, C, D, and Z. That is their equivalent of young, ages 7, teens, older teens, adult. I'm going to be honest, this is really hard to read. Because as much as I would love to be able to read Japanese, I can't.
I know, right? But the good thing is that they take those Japanese ratings and they translate them over into very similar to the TV ratings. Some of them come in American TV ratings, some of them in Canadian TV ratings, but you can always find those ratings on your anime DVDs.
Yes, and so they do so for the marketing audience. It's the same reason why you have sub versus dub. Dub is so that those, like me, who might be slightly slow at reading those quick subtitles, can enjoy it just by listening. They take the anime from Japan, and the American corporations will adjust it to fit its buying audience. So, for example, we have Studio Ghibli, Spirited Away. So Studio Ghibli is a Japanese, well-known movie anime publishing company. But in order to help bring that to America, Disney went, hey, let's be partners.
And we'll talk about it a little bit more later on. But just because something is made from a certain company does not necessarily mean that it's going to have that same suggested rating through all their videos. Just because one thing from these guys is rated PG, great as an introduction for young kids, does not mean that's the exact same thing you can say about all of the material that they produce.
That's correct. Not all things are created equal in this.
And we'll go to the next slide, Jake.
Okay, so this is video game ratings. This one looks a lot easier, looks a lot familiar, because video games in America have been around for as long as they've been created here, and it's been American style, or hey, we're going to pull Japanese style over here. It doesn't matter. They pretty much absorb it all because it is a very demanding genre. But they make it nicer for video games. They put the rating for Dragon Ball Z right there. Nice, big, it's a T. You can see that. You don't have to flip it over. You don't have to have a magnifying glass. I wish they would do this for many other things.
So looking at the ratings, there's the E for everyone, which is for everyone. It's a great place to start with younger kids. Your E10 is going to be next, which means it's suggested for kids 10 or older. Teens, you're hitting that 13, 12, 13 age. And the content just changes between them. And that's really the purpose of the rating system, is to let you know that the content is changing, becoming more intense, becoming different. M is mature, and that means you should be a semi-adult. You should be 18 or older when you're playing those because of the content that's included. Adult is adult. And then the two you don't see very often are going to be the RP, which means it's just kind of not rated yet. It doesn't have a specific rating for it, I think, too. So as we move to the next slide, we mentioned this earlier. Manga is what we're going to talk about next. And for those of you who don't know, that's the in-print version of anime. So there are some special things when you're looking at manga, if you're trying to explain it to kids how it works, and I'm going to let Dawn talk about that.
Okay, so there are two universal rules in bookstores. If your kid or some random other younger child comes to you with a shrink-wrapped manga requesting you to buy it, it is not for them. Shrink wrap purposely means that there is explicit material, extreme violence, or most likely erotica material. That is why it's shrink wrapped. Okay, so bookstores, if they're any good at their job, will do this because they don't want little kids going and flipping through this saying, is this something I want? Because they're going to see something they probably shouldn't. So that's just rule number one. If it's shrink wrapped, that right there is going to tell you something. But to just go over the basic ratings, because again, if you can think it, anime can do it. So there are many different genres. I mean, you've got fantasy, sci-fi, you've got megabots, you've got all sorts of genres. So to help with the ratings, you have a manga that's going to have that rating. Now, here's a big difference between manga and comic books. We're Americans. We like to read from left to right. And we tend to follow a sentence, left to right, left to right, left to right. Well, Japan doesn't do that. Japan is opposite. Japan reads right to left, top to bottom. So when you pull those books out, if this book looks a little funny, like it's backwards, it's because it's a manga. So that's a really good tip right there to let you know what you're looking at. So the ratings for mangas are always clearly printed on the back. They always do tend to be toward the bottom. Sometimes they're on the right, left, but they are clearly printed on the back, which is a lot nicer than the DVDs. So rated A is for all ages. And this is the one rating system that is not translated to our system. And here's the reason why. Comics books, when they were created, didn't have a rating system. So if you all are as Marvel DC fans as I am, when they created comic books, it was, here you go. But when Japan created manga, they put ratings on it. And so the A is for all ages. Y is for the young youth, so ages 10. Gonna have more detail, gonna have more content, gonna have more storylines and arcs to it. T is for teenagers, 13 and up. And then you also have older teens. So the 13 and up is going to be dealing with your more detailed content, but it's still gonna be in a safer like setting. But the older teen, it's not. You'll see people die, you'll see murder, you'll see mayhem, whatever. And then the M is really just for the erotica content. And I'm gonna be honest, because of the audience, if you don't know what erotica means, you're not old enough to know. Okay.
So the next thing we're going to look at is some anime terminology. So these are words that are associated with anime. You might hear someone trying to explain something to you and you hear those words, or your kid comes home and says, hey, I learned this thing. And you're like, what is that? So this will hopefully help you just get a few quick grasps on words that are commonly associated with anime and that are just if you have a kid that likes it, it's good to know so that you can understand them.
So I consider myself to be pretty hip. I use the word dude. Yo, bro, what's up?
That is so last year.
I went with bro for a hot second. Anyways, I have a teenage daughter. She loves to re-educate me on things. Yeah, I can see some of you laughing. So I found out what good soup meant. I thought it actually meant good soup. No, it actually means cool things. And I'm like, I thought that was cool. Well, anime's got a similar ordeal. The good thing about anime, though, is it doesn't change nearly as rapidly as teenage fashion sense. So, right now, we're going to go over just some basic ones, so that way when your kids come home and say, oh, so-and-so totally is into shoujin. Well, what does that mean? Okay. Shoujin is the very top one. It's actually normally known as girls' comic because it tends to be toward the girls' audience, and here's why. It tends to deal a lot with love interests or school life. These are just words to kind of help you get a quick idea.
So the next word on the list is shonen.
Yes, so these sound very similar, shoujin and shonen. But shonen tends to be directed more toward the boys, and they only use this in a very basic concept. You can be a fan of both, it's not a big deal. But the reason why shonen is directed more toward boys is because it's your action-packed stuff. Okay, I'm a huge Yu Yu Hakusho fan. That is my Yusuke Urameshi. This is a picture of a shonen jump comic book series that is released in the United States. And what that magazine does is it takes one chapter from 5 different mangas and kind of just gives you a brief interaction with them to see if you like it. Kind of like a taste tester, if you want, for material. But it's action, so they're going to put action stuff in it.
So your next word is mecha.
Okay, so I'll be honest, I'm not a mecha fan. But my husband and my family are. So ironic. But mecha deals with any form of robots, cyber, space, androids, which is what we have Gundam Wing at the very top for.
And I will probably say this one wrong, but Kodomomuke?
Actually, you got it pretty darn close. So this one tends to be directed more for like 12 and under because it tends to be just your more safer content and tends to go with teaching basic moralities. Let's stay on the right path and be a good person and learn how to help people, not be mean.
So the next word we actually talked about a little bit earlier is chibi.
So chibi, it's the big head, big eyes, little body. It's so cute. So that's pretty much what it is. A chibi is a small person or animal that tends to not be totally proportionate, but is so adorable.
And like we pointed out earlier, the most important thing when you're looking at this style of anime is to remember that its style does not dictate its content. So you can have those cutesy little things and they can be doing very adult things. And you can also have those cutesy little things and it's made in a style and with a storyline that's for your 6-year-old. So the next word is sensei.
Yep, so the next 2 words are for when you're walking through the living room and your kid's watching something and you hear something. Most likely it's not a cuss word, it could be, always double check. But sensei just means teacher, and the one right after that, senpai, just means upperclassman. So the anime that says, notice me senpai, means notice me upperclassman.
And the next word on there?
So harem. Harem actually explains a base storyline. A harem tends to be one male character surrounded by a bunch of female characters that tend to be love interests. And there tend to be some funny but awkward situations. Most harems are going to be for your teenagers or older because those awkward situations are going to be, oh, I ran out of the house quickly trying to make the bus and forgot my pants. And I ran into my crush on the bus. So those tend to be the more awkward situations. Not necessarily explicit, but just awkward.
But the other thing, as we were talking about this, I I know for me, like in a generalization, I've never thought of the word harem in terms of anime or anything else really. It's not a word I particularly like, and it's kind of been like had negative connotation. But I was thinking about it as I read the description, and I'm like, you know what? That it could describe fangirls.
Yes,
Like, so just because someone uses the word to describe that sort of situation doesn't necessarily mean that it is a sexual situation or a negative situation.
And don't worry, there is what's called a reverse harem, where you have a female that is surrounded by a bunch of male interests. Take a look at the middle picture. It's called Oran High School Post Club. Just a quick story. This main character with the dark hair that's in the middle, kind of right above the title, that's a girl. She's a female. She goes to a school. She ends up breaking something and gets thrown into a host club with a bunch of boys. And the whole show is about how each boy slowly finds out that she's not a boy, she's a she. And oh my gosh, she's actually kind of cool. And they like being friends. And maybe one or two of them, no spoilers, may actually have a crush on her by the end of the series.
Content is going to be adult. The next word we're going to talk about does.
Yes, so these next two words are adult. So with all due respect, if your kid is watching something or most likely looking something up on Google and the words ichi or hentai come across, that's what your audience is. That is not for little kids. That is explicit sexual content, not for little kids.
And we've already got our next slide up there. These are just some anime show suggestions within those age categories.
Yep. So again, just to let you know, you can have a chibi style, just a really cutesy style, but have it be for mature audiences only. So you can't just quickly look anymore. You might need to do just a little bit of research. And so we decided to do a little bit of research for you. We took some content from when we were kids, because let's be honest, this is how we found out about anime. Our parents didn't teach us nothing. They didn't screen nothing. We figured it out. We found out that wasn't the best idea. But here are some older to modern, yes, most of these are on Netflix, way to give you a quick idea.
So first we'll look at the G rating, and Pokemon, Bakugan, Glitter Force, Tokyo Mew Mew. These are all G rated. They're all great for younger kids. Simple storylines, just very much for the younger audiences.
Yep, and we've got a Pokemon character up there, and then we have the Tokyo Mew Mew group. The next rating is going to be PG rating, and that's going to be your Avatar Last Airbender, the anime, not the movie live action, y'all. There is a difference. Okay, so we're talking about the good one, the anime. And then there's Digimon, there's Sailor Moon, and there's the Little Witch Academia. So Sailor Moon and Tokyo Mew Mew, I'm going to be honest, are very, very similar. But Sailor Moon, the reason it's a PG is because when she does her wonderful transformation, her clothes melt away. Now, it doesn't show any detail. It kind of silhouettes her out. Either she's in a dark shadow or she's in a bright light and you're kind of blinded. But you slowly see the gloves come, the shoes come, the outfit and the hair just randomly appear. But that's why they decided to put it up one rating.
And then PG-13 is the next level up. Some of the shows there are Legend of Korra, Naruto. What's the next one?
Baruto, it's his son. They continued it.
Full Metal Alchemist, Trigun, and My Hero Academia.
Okay, so My Hero Academia tends to be very attractive to the newer audience, and it is rated PG-13, and that is because of a lot of the fighting and a lot of the, oh no, what is Deku going to do? He has a moral dilemma situations. and it does show blood and violence and some language. So that's why it's an older audience. There's not a whole lot of age difference between PG-13 and TV-14. It really is left up to you, the parent, to decide. But TV-14 is going to have Death Note, The Ancient Magus Bride, which is a good series in my opinion, Hunter x Hunter, Ghost in the Shell, Cowboy Bebop, Psyche, and Black Butler. Okay, so remember a few panels ago, for those that have been here, how I said in the manga, if someone has a shriek-wrapped manga, that's a key note that's for mature audiences? Here's another one. If the word death is in it, it's probably for older audiences, at least teenager and older.
And our last group is age 16 and up, and the ones listed here are Shin-Chan, Attack on Titan, Dead Man's Wonderland, Devilman, Monster, Tokyo Ghoul, High School of the Dead.
So Shin-Chan looks like a cartoon, but it is actually Japanese created, and it is for older audiences. It has a lot of cussing, a lot of content, a lot of fighting, and actually it even talks a little bit about suicidal tendencies and depression, which is kind of interesting. But all that topic is why it is rated age 16 plus. Again, Dead Man Wonderland. It's got the word dead in it. That should be a huge hint as to what that's about. Tokyo Ghoul Monster tends to be more gore. It's called the 18 plus. I didn't put it on there for a reason. If you want to know about that, y'all are more welcome to talk to me, but I will ask you to show me your age on your ID.
So, this next slide, a very good, fun place to start with your kids when you're looking at anime is with Studio Ghibli. And we've kind of hinted and mentioned it a little bit, but most of their content is rated PG-13 or under. But even in saying that, there are the different categories. There's some of them that are G-rated, some of them that are PG-rated, some of them that are PG-13. And just being aware that it's a great place to start. These are fairly safe for kids, but there's still stuff that you want to kind of look at it and go, no, that one's PG-13, even though it's by this person and by these people that made all these rated G ones. As the content changes, the rating changes, and they're just not all equal.
Yeah, so that goes back to what you said earlier. Just because Disney funded this and brought Studio Ghibli over to America does not mean that it's all little kid rated G. Like she said, there's different levels. Also, there's different content. So for rated G, we've got Ponyo, which is kind of the Japanese version of The Little Mermaid. It's cute. Deals with fish, deals with water, deals with flooding. Then you've got Arrietty. It's very similar to The Borrowers. In fact, Arrietty is what inspired the story for the American version of The Borrowers. But it's about a little family and a little girl that is trying not to be seen by us big humans. And then you have
My Neighbor Totoro.
My Neighbor Totoro. So, neat little thing. Totoro actually means troll. I thought that was funny when I found out.
Kiki's Delivery Service.
Yeah, Kiki's Delivery Service is about get this, a 12-year-old little witch girl that leaves her family to live on her own for 1 year in order to pass and keep her magical powers. She has to do this for a full year before she's the age of 13. She loses them forever. I want to be a cat.
What's the next one? Whisper of the Heart.
So Whisper of the Heart is actually what created the Cat Return. Go back one slide. Whisper of the Heart was the first story that came out, and it inspired Cat Return to be created.
And then in the PG, I'm just going to hit like 2 or 3 here. Spirited Away.
So Spirited Away is one of the most commonly known ones. And it was because when it came over, Disney just didn't release it into a DVD. They put that thing in theaters. I remember, I think I was like, what, junior high when that came out? That thing was a big deal. But it's about a girl who's moving to a new place with her family, and oh no, mom and dad get turned into pigs, and I'm suddenly in the spirit realm. What do I do? So there is more to the story, and there is a little bit of language, which is why it's a, PG.
And Nausicaa?
So I actually really like Nausicaa. It's one of the few animes that I think has a great storyline about taking care of our Earth. So it starts in an apocalyptic world where we honestly just messed everything up, and you have bugs that are now the size of skyscrapers. And so Nausicaa is about trying to bring the Earth back from the toxic wasteland while keeping her kingdom safe.
And then we're going to jump over to PG-13, and let's go with Princess Mononoke.
Okay, so Princess Mononoke is honestly my favorite. I love it. It's amazing. It's great. The reason it's a PG-13 is because it does show arms or limbs getting severed. It does show blood. And it talks a great deal about the concept of life and death and who or what has control over that or how it has control over that. So what it is you have a girl who was abandoned by her family and raised by wolves. And then you have a guy who's a prince who gets kicked out of his kingdom because he gets cursed. And they end up having to save a creature that has the ability to kill things or bring things back to life.
Be willing to take that hour on your Friday night and watch something before they watch it. Or even watch it with them. If you think, okay, the rating's good, they'll be fine. Watch it with them and talk about those things that are happening in the show, the things that make it a PG-13. Like, be willing to just kind of explore the world with them, because when it comes to anime, you can have so many different things and so many different stories and opinions and ideas, and the anime itself may not give you all the answers.
So if you want to be a cool parent, do exactly what she said. Make it a movie night. Totally go rent something, put something on Netflix, watch it with your kid. Dude, teenagers will even still dig it, especially if you're the one that makes the popcorn and go gets the soda for them, because they ain't getting off the couch. But if you want to be a smart parent, you can go to, next slide please, a couple of websites to do a quick background check or research or to get a general idea. These websites are just some of the few that are out there. Now, you do have to be careful about your websites because a lot of them are going to be, hey, I've got an opinion today. But there are some that are like your wiki that are going to give you a little bit more of the actual truth and content. So, you could be cool, you could be smart, or you could be mean, just be awesome and do both.
And we just really hope that being here with us today, you've got some things to look at, some things to go on as you explore anime with your kids. I mean, if you are a parent and you're here, or if you know one day you'll be a parent and you're sitting here listening to us, like, we just hope that this gives you some resources, this is where you can go, this is what you can do, and here's just something to help, because we all need help.
Yep, and so we do have like the Studio Ghibli guide, we do have TV guide ratings, there is the video game guide ratings, and then there is the manga. But if you guys walk away with anything, just walk away with this. If the manga is shrink wrapped, it's mature audience. Just because it looks like a cute little kid with a big head and big eyes doesn't mean it's always for little kids. Those are the biggest things.
And we just want to thank you guys for being here, for listening, for being a part of this panel today. And does anyone have any questions, real quick?
No, I think they want us to stop talking.
Well, you always talk too much.
I am a ham, I admit this.
I do too. It's okay.
If you guys think of something later, we are staff. We will be here for a good chunk of the day. You're always more than welcome to come up to us and ask us additional questions. or if you just had one that you just wanted a quick idea on, most likely between the two of us, we've heard about it or watched it. Thank you for coming, y'all.